For context, I moved into my current apartment 4 years ago. It's a brand new pet-friendly 3-story building with one tenant per floor. Me and my wife moved into the basement, and on the same day another young couple, mid-20 to early 30, moved into one just above. I didn't know at the time that they would end up being the worst neighbors I ever had. It all started only a few days after we moved in. At first we noticed that their 2 dogs barked a lot and often for hours non-stop. And for your information, the apartments are sound isolated. So much so that when the guy plays loud music, I can only eat it if both of our windows are open. After a couple of months, I started to realize that they never took their trash bin to the side of the road. It was always the other neighbors, my wife, or me that would do it for them. So I decided to stop doing them the favor, and it just led to them piling some garbage bags outside of the filled bin and leaving it there for another 2 weeks. And when the raccoons would go through their garbage bags, they wouldn't even clean up. I had to do it for them because otherwise the wind would bring all the trash on my balcony. Then came winter. I'm from Canada, so of course it comes with a lot of snow to shovel. My neighbors do own a shovel, but it's mostly for decoration. So every winter the other friendly neighbor and I split the task of shoveling the stairs that they share, the path to the sheds and around the recycling and garbage bin so they wouldn't be stuck in ice. In the meantime, the neighbors from hell don't even bother to remove the snow from their own parking spot, which leads to their cars sitting on top of a 10-inch bump of slippery compacted snow. On multiple occasions, their car slipped down from that hill and almost crashed into my wife's car. Then over the years, one of their demon dogs was unleashed and ran down my stairs, tore through my back door screen, and bit my dog on the snout pretty badly. Almost every day there are some shady guys that come to the apartment and leave with little packages, and one time I couldn't leave the house because the building was surrounded by over 15 police officers to arrest them. But then a perfect opportunity for revenge appended. One day I noticed the recycling truck worker looking into their recycling bin, and instead of picking it up, he just left it there. I got curious, and when I went to pick up my own bin, theirs was full of styrofoam, which is rejected by my city. So every time they bring the bin on the side of the road, I go after them and make sure to leave some styrofoam sticking out. It's been 2 months now, and they're drowning in trash and cardboard. They don't put extra garbage near the bin anymore because of multiple complaints from me and some neighbors from other blocks. Every time they come to grab their bin, they're dumbfounded to see that it's still full. The other day, I even saw the guy loading his car with trash to probably dump it into a bin somewhere else. I spent enough time dealing with their shit. Now they get to live on their own. One night in my senior year of high school, I was with some friends and we were getting baked behind the shed in my backyard. After a few rounds of the bong and some amount of time giggling and eating junk food, we decided to call it a night. One of my friends asked to use my eye drops, as red eyes were generally enough to bring suspicion from parents and other figures of authority. I reached into my jacket pocket and fished out the small bottle of Vicine and handed it over. My friend let out a yelp and, in obvious pain, said, "I think I stabbed myself in the eye." We all laughed because we were stoned. Then he yelped once more and said, "Damn, I did it again to my other eye." We all burst into laughter again because once is funny but twice is hilarious. Then another friend tried and winced in pain, but he exclaimed that he most certainly did not stab himself in the eye, that it was the drops, and he guessed out loud while in intense pain that maybe they were expired. I took the bottle from him. I looked at the back, illuminated by the flame of my Zippo. It didn't expire for another year. And then, like a stoned fool, I tried them in one of my own eyes. I felt an icy blast of pain, and it was nothing remotely like the mild sting of saline. It was only at this point, with 5 of the 8 eyes present shuddered and stingy, that we decided to investigate in a way other than applying directly to our eyes. I smelled the bottle and put some drops onto my hand. It smelled weird, but I had no reference because I'd never thought to smell my eye drops before. This liquid smelled like alcohol. I squirted a fair amount of the bottle on the ground and then set my lighter to it, and it caught on fire. We all went home confused and slightly afraid of using eye drops again, and it wasn't until the following day that I figured out what had happened. I had used these drops earlier the day before, just before I had gone to work. The bottle had been in my coat pocket, and let's call him Little Bob. The son of Boss, Big Bob, had taken the bottle, removed the actual eye drops, and replaced it with rubbing alcohol because he thought it would be a funny prank. We wanted to beat Little Bob to within an inch of his life, but I really liked my job and Big Bob was a good guy and a great boss, even if his son was kind of annoying. So I talked him out of the direct violence and came up with my own plan. One drop of super glue. I waited a couple of weeks to distance myself from the prank. Little Bob had a pickup truck. The truck was a model from the early 80s and had 2 bucket seats instead of a single bench-style seat, 2 doors, and importantly, 2 locks. 2 manual locks that could only be opened with a key, and there were no power locks, so you had to physically unlock the door that you wanted to open. Between the 2 seats was a large console that ran from the dashboard to the back of the cabin, and it was not something that was easily hopped over, especially for a person of Little Bob's size. One quick squirt in the door lock of the driver's side of his truck was all it took. Just enough to lock the pins, and his key wouldn't really fit anymore, but there would be no obvious reason why it was happening. But why not both locks? That's where the genius of my plan would come into play. Little Bob was cheap, like really cheap. He didn't like to spend any money that he didn't have to. He would pretend to be homeless to get free lunch at the mission, and I knew that if he had to change both locks, my little prank would fizzle within an hour of its discovery. But if it was just one lock, he could just go to the other side and unlock it, open it, and climb in over the console and sit down and drive the truck away. And of key importance, still be able to get out from the driver's side when he got to where he was going. So the impulse to fix it would fade because fixing a mere annoyance was not more valuable to him than the $200 it would cost to get it fixed. However, in the area we lived in, unlocked cars became stolen cars pretty quickly. So he would of course lock both doors and the cycle would repeat and he would be annoyed and inconvenienced indefinitely. Little Bob did it for a couple of months, probably having to climb over that console a couple hundred times. He almost seemed proud of himself after he'd taken it to get the lock changed out, as if he had defeated his assailant. He didn't suspect me, but only because he thought it was someone else that had it out for him as well. My power face never slipped. He didn't even know it was me that had done it until someone told him after I'd moved away. Next story. This happened when I was doing my master's. I had to move out overseas for the field of study I had chosen. It was pretty lonely at first, but then I found that some people I studied with in high school came to the same university. In the first month, I ran into Jacob, a guy from my school. We made eye contact and he just walked away. Strange, but I guessed he was busy with something, so whatever. I met up with one of the guys from my high school group, and as we were talking, we bump into Jacob. He again makes eye contact with us and walks away. This time I try to call him out, but my friend Henry stopped me. Apparently Jacob has been doing that to pretty much everyone in my high school group, and someone else back home sent us a screenshot where he claimed to be lonely because he was stuck with a bunch of annoying people. He names all of us. I thought we were cool, man. At uni. TBH, that was kind of rude because all I wanted to do was hang out and not reenact High School 2.0, but it was his opinion, so you do you, I guess. This actually continues for my entire duration of the study, and it was frankly stupid, and he was making things so awkward for all of us. Then comes the last semester where we have to do a project exhibition. Just for the uni to showcase the R&D stuff happening to people coming for tours and try to get some of that sweet student loan money. The graded one was to be held a week later. I was lucky to have a couple good friends and 2 guys from my high school as teammates, so things go pretty smooth. On the day of the project exhibition, all of us are busy editing PPTs, Word docs in the library when Jacob freaking approaches us after getting this 2 years of avoiding us. He had apparently forgotten to bring his laptop from home and just wanted to borrow one of ours for 2 minutes. We told him that he could use the PCs here, to which he says he isn't allowed to use it anymore. Sus. We again told him to call his teammate or something, but apparently they were running late and he needed it urgently. He then uses his speech 100 skills and says that friends should help each other out in times of need and that he would do the same for us if we were in his situation. The audacity! I snapped and said, "Sorry, but I don't even know you, man. It would be stupid to risk my project just for a rando," and got back to my work. Everyone was like, Jacob then looked at the other two people he knew and they just shrugged. Jacob then stormed away, calling us our words under his breath, which made us burst out laughing. Every now and then I could hear Jacob in the background asking someone for their laptop, and I seriously doubt he got any. You see, Jacob had earned a reputation of being a grade A prankster, and him asking for a laptop at that time seemed to be a textbook prank. The cherry on the cake was that after the exhibition, I heard that something spicy happened during Jacob's presentation. So apparently, none of his team showed up on time, so he got a teacher's laptop at literally the last minute and decided to wing it on his own. When he plugged in the projector, he had his mail displayed for everyone to see while he looked for the PPT. He had lots of mails from multiple adult websites asking him to renew his subscription. And someone from the crowd shouted, "Bro, who the F pays for porn?" And everybody laughed at that. This exhibition had no marks, we just did it for fun, so nothing major happened, but Jacob had like negative 10,000 social points, and whenever people, even freshmen, saw him, they'd ask if they could borrow his account for an hour. This is funny. When I went to university freshman year, I would run into a couple of guys from my high school. I was kind of an outcast in high school, and they were in a different clique. Way more family money. These guys stopped and we talked a few times, nice as can be. We never hung out or anything, they all joined a social frat, but they would always be genuinely friendly. There should be a jump in maturity from high school to college that your boy Jacob never took. I wonder if he ever will. Is it petty? Yes. Is it revenge? Absolutely. Do I feel bad for Jacob? Definitely. He seems to have social issues, and given that some guys really take longer to fully mature mentally, it's possible that he's a late bloomer in that regard. I actually thought we were cool in high school, none of us hated each other or got into some kind of drama at the end. It's just kind of sad how sometimes you get excited into bumping someone you knew and they pretend that you don't exist. I guess that's how some people are. Next story. I work at a distribution center and unfortunately I injured my knee while working one night. We're not sure what happened, the case is currently ongoing. In the beginning they were pretty accommodating until they noticed a loophole in my workers' comp doctor's note based on how it's written, and this part is important. The note stated to give me 2 to 3 15-minute breaks to rest or ice. The doctor meant this to be included with our regular 2 lunches. The operations manager and HR decided that 2 of those breaks were covered by one of the lunches and would only give me 1 additional 15-minute break. I objected, stating he very well knew what the doctor intended, but he didn't budge. Fine. I went back to the doctor and mentioned what had happened. Naturally, he was annoyed and wrote a new one stating to give me a 15-minute break every 2 hours. Easy, right? No. The operations manager and HR consolidated my lunches for the breaks because of how it's written. Once again, I go back to the doctor. Now he's pissed and includes in addition to regular lunches on the note because they're so focused on how it's written. Operations manager is furious when I show the note and says he refuses to pay me for those breaks, to which I'm pretty sure is illegal. I submitted a letter of concern to the safety supervisor along with a statement that I'm planning on bringing this matter to higher power, a carefully chosen word for lawyer. Then spoke with the head of HR. Like magic, the operations manager presented me with a reasonable break schedule and assigned me to a department where I'd be stationary. Bonus, not everybody is a pushover who won't fight back. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up. After reading a ton of comments suggesting to push things further, I'm definitely gonna look into it. I did log everything with dates and details as well as kept a copy of the letter I submitted. Thank you everyone for your support. And no, it's not Amazon. I failed to mention the operations manager tried to throw my second job in my face when I confronted him. 1. That's irrelevant to the current matter. 2. Are you kidding? The second job, I don't really do anything other than sell games. You can figure it out. And they let me sit if I need to without issue. If I were the doctor, due to the incompetence of management, OP's case has been worsened due to lack of breaks and rest, and they are no longer able to work. OP will be given 2 weeks off on paid leave at employer's expense and advised to rest up for the duration. OP will be re-examined at the end of 2 weeks for confirmation of whether or not safe return to work can be made without excoriating injury. FYI, if you get hurt at work and it's serious and they offer a buyout or lifetime health coverage for the injury, weigh your options very carefully and discuss with your doctor. My dad, he was union, had a large box fall on him and he slipped a disc. He had to have surgery and was out of disability for months. 5 months. Best summer ever. We went to the public pool a lot, so fun. They opted for lifetime coverage and my mom says it was the best decision. That back injury caused a lot of problems and all of it was covered because they choose this option. Don't always jump at the money. It's not going to help you way down the line and it has run out. OP, I hope you're doing well and it's nothing too serious. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of listening to a family member go to bat for some of his former colleagues at a distribution warehouse. He used to work at the warehouse, he organized everything, and successfully unionized the warehouse. After that, he was offered a job at the union. It was so glorious to hear him toss around the phrase as it's written with some authority to the guy that used to hold the power over him, the head of the whole warehouse. Well, John, I know the contract doesn't specifically say how many units the packers will be required to complete, but I can also see in this contract section blank, article blank, where it says any employee can refuse to do a job that is unreasonably unsafe without retaliation. I haven't consulted a lawyer on this yet because I haven't had to, but I think an argument could be made that driving to work in 2 feet of snow that hasn't been cleared yet could be considered unsafe. I understand it's not the 6th point that gets you fired, it's the 5 before that. Points are given for rule infractions. But this unprecedented weather event is not the kind of thing anyone should lose their job over.